Greg Olson, Director of the New York State Office for the Aging.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you. My name is Greg Olson, and I'm the director of the New York State Office for Aging. You know, we're gonna talk. I want to talk a little bit first about the volunteerism and how valuable volunteers are generally. Volunteers are the backbone of over tens of thousands of not-for-profit organizations in the state of New York, including many that are run by the Offices for the Aging locally and at the state level. We have almost 1 million volunteers in New York State that are providing almost 450 million hours of service at an economic value of $13.2 billion a year. And we clearly know what the benefit is to the organizations that they're serving. So within the NYSOFA world, things like meal preparation, home delivered meal routes that are being provided by volunteers, providing transportation, and so much more. But that spreads across many, many not-for-profits. And we're always looking for, not only within NYSOFA, but just generally, people to consider giving back, to have that purpose. There's also tons of evidence on what volunteering actually means to the individual. Better cognitive ability, continuing movement, combating social isolation and loneliness, having purpose in one's life. So again, there's benefits on both sides of the aisle. But today we're going to be talking about two really, really important programs that we administer at the New York State Office for the Aging. One is the Health Insurance Information, Counseling, and Assistance Program. It's called HIICAP. And our Long-Term Care Ombudsman program. Both of these programs rely heavily on volunteers who provide thousands and thousands of hours of service to communities across New York State every single year. We'll speak to two amazing leaders within the New York State Office for the Aging who administer and run these programs and the great work that they do. And what we're really hoping is that you'll consider joining one of these programs. We always could use you. There's a lot of need out there. And like I said, I think that there's benefits on both sides. So first, I'm going to introduce our amazing HIICAP coordinator, Heather Leddick, who, again, oversees HIICAP. Hey, Heather. Our Medicare counseling program. And, you know, the timing for this is really, really important because you cannot turn on the TV without seeing an ad from some insurance company or Medicare Advantage talking about all the great things that they can provide you. But as we're going to see later, what we're going to encourage you to do is not to call those 1-800 numbers, but to call Heather and her team and our team throughout New York State. To get objective information, advice, and guidance so that you can make the best choices you can on plans, on your prescription drug benefit, and so on. So Heather, let's start with you. What is the program? What is HIICAP's role? And what's the purpose? And how are you guys structured?
So thanks for having me, Greg. And yes, the HIICAP program, which is the Health Insurance Information, Counseling, and Assistance Program, helps Medicare beneficiaries and their families understand the complexities of Medicare. So that would be their Medicare coverage as it exists, Part A, which is hospital coverage, Part B, which is outpatient services, and prescription drug coverage, which is often referred to as Part D. We help folks navigate plan choices when it comes to Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug coverage, or Medigap supplemental plans. And of course, you can learn about all of this and talk to one of our experienced counselors by reaching out to our 1-800 line, which is 1-800-701-0501. I know we'll post that here. And that's how you connect with us. And the program is structured that by calling that number, you're going to be routed to a program in your local area where you can speak to a trained, certified HIICAP counselor for more information.
Yeah, and I want to state for the audience, both live and in the future, that you guys are available 12 months a year. This is not a once a year type of thing. However, this is a really important time of the year because it's Medicare open enrollment period. And that's where, again, and you can describe it a little bit more, people have an opportunity to reevaluate the plan that they're on, possibly pick a new one. So what is open enrollment and how does the program help individuals at this time?
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning we are available 12 months. This is a year-round program. Our busy time, of course, is right now. So that's the Medicare open enrollment period that runs October 15th to December 7th. And during this time, people are evaluating their Medicare health insurance options, and they're receiving a lot of information in the mail, whether it be flyers, postcards, letters from their plan. We encourage people to take a look at that, make sure your plan is not terminating, meaning ending for 2026, and it will no longer be available. We want you to look at your prescription drug formulary, your providers, and hospital systems in your area. And those are all things that we can assist with during this busy Medicare open enrollment period.
So again, I think the purpose of this is not only we have incredible paid staff like you, your team at the state office, but also at the county level, but really talk about how important the volunteers are in order for really you to meet the mission of what HIICAP is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission is to educate Medicare beneficiaries and empower them when it comes to their Medicare health insurance options. Volunteers are the backbone of our program. We are so grateful to have dedicated volunteers working on this program across the state. They do receive annual training. They receive a complete annual certification to counsel folks. It is a volunteer-based program, but as you mentioned, we have many at the area agencies on aging staff members working on the program, but we have many volunteers, dedicated volunteers assisting during this open enrollment period and throughout the year.
Yeah, and I think right now there's a lot of uncertainty with what's happening at the federal level that could potentially lead to some additional changes, and we just don't know what those are yet. But how many volunteers do you currently have? And I think equally as important, and I want to thank them for sure, because this can be a fairly intense program, but it's not like if you volunteer, you're just going to be thrown out, into the work, so to speak, without the training. You talked about the training, the certification, and you guys do a phenomenal job in doing that. How many volunteers do you have and how many do you need?
So we have over 230 volunteers statewide, and we always need more volunteers. So if you're watching this and you're interested in the program, we encourage you to reach out. We're going to share some information as to how you connect with us to become a volunteer. And yes, the training is annual. So volunteers working under our program, they complete face-to-face training every year, as well as we offer many trainings that are online and self-paced. And we do certify them through an annual process to ensure that they are, up to speed and ready to counsel individuals during the busy Medicare open enrollment period.
Now, I can imagine somebody sitting back who says, this sounds interesting to me. It really makes a difference in people's lives. But what would my time commitment be if I decided to do this? And I think the beauty of volunteerism is the individual gets to decide, but I'm sure that you may have some standards that you can share with people to give them a better idea that if this was something that they were interested in pursuing, what the expectation would be.
Yeah, so I would say that, we want to make sure that it's an engaging, fulfilling volunteer experience. And volunteers for HIICAP, they're not only counseling and providing that one-on-one face-to-face counseling. They can also assist us with group outreach events, dropping off our materials at area providers or pharmacies, and just educating the public in general. So that role can kind of be designed to fit the needs of the volunteer. I would say that we are looking for folks who have availability during that Medicare open enrollment period or prior to provide some of that outreach throughout the summer months. So,
Right.
That is something that they can discuss with the local HIICAP coordinator when they express interest and when they're onboarding.
Right. So those of you out there, there's a variety of different volunteer experiences for sure. So I know Alex had this up just a minute ago, but if somebody is interested in volunteering, how do they go about doing it?
So the best way, they can contact the 1-800 line, which again is 1-800-701-0501. They will then be connected with the local HIICAP coordinator. They can indicate they're interested in volunteering, or they can fill out this HIICAP volunteer interest form. So you should see that on your screen now. This is available through our website, and I would encourage folks to utilize this as well. This comes directly to me, to us at our office, and then we work with that local volunteer and share your interest in the program.
And, one more thing before we hit a break, Heather, does training happen one time a year, or is that something that can happen on a revolving basis?
Oh, it absolutely happens on a revolving basis. So training and Medicare is complex and it's always changing. So training happens throughout the year. And again, we offer that online, self-paced. We have spring trainings that are in person, fall trainings that are in person, but we also offer many, many training opportunities throughout the year.
Excellent. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll bring Claudette on, who's from the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. As mentioned, we're talking about the Health Insurance Information Counseling and Assistance Program, which assists Medicare beneficiaries 12 months a year, but certainly a little bit more intense during the open enrollment period. So let's take a look at this.
My name is Greg Olson, and I'm the Director of the New York State Office for Aging.
Hi, I'm Heather Leddick, and I'm with New York State Office for the Aging with the HIICAP program.
So right now is open enrollment time, but you can't turn on your TV without somebody trying to sell you one of their products.
So someone might ask, what's the right plan? How do I know what decision to make? And the best thing to do is reach out to HIICAP, the Health Insurance Information Counseling and Assistance Program. And you can reach us by calling 1-800-701-0501.
All of our counselors in New York State are state certified and highly trained. They're not selling you anything. What they're providing is information so that you can select the best plan that's right for you.
There's 15 prescription drug plans available for Medicare beneficiaries in New York State for 2024. There's 280 companies offering Medicare Advantage plans. Last year, HIICAP counselors helped Medicare beneficiaries save $115 million through prescription drug savings and other Medicare-related health costs. Medicare can be very complex, so we encourage you, if you have questions, to please call HIICAP today, 1-800-701-0501.
How is anybody expected to understand 280 insurance products and 15 prescription drug plans? Please call HIICAP today. It could be the best call you make this year.
Don't call the number on TV. Call this number.
Well, we had a couple little glitches there, but the video is great, and I want to thank Heather for joining me to do that. So it's really my honor to bring Claudette Royale on, who is the coordinator for the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Hello there. How are you?
Hi, Greg. Thank you for having me today.
Of course, it's great. So people may not know what the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program is and how really important it is, because not everybody is in a facility, so to speak. So briefly just talk about what HIICAP does, Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program, what's the role of the program, and the purpose.
Sure. Our program provides advocacy services to residents who live in long-term care facilities, which include skilled nursing facilities or nursing homes, adult homes, assisted living facilities, and as well in New York State, family type homes. We are there to help residents practice the ability to have their rights protected, to attain the best quality of life that they can, and sometimes just be an ear to listen to them about some of their concerns, and then offer to assist them with resolving those concerns that they may have while living in a facility.
Yeah, so you guys are a problem-solving entity, so to speak, not a enforcement and regulatory agency. Explain the difference.
Correct. We are not able to issue citations to facilities. We're not an enforcement agency. We're there to try to help residents resolve their issues and concerns with the facility itself and try to help them work with a facility to be able to live their best life while they're there. Not that we don't address regulatory issues, but we cannot provide enforcement. We're there more to try to help the residents' day-to-day activities be the best that they can be.
Now, I know a lot of people, whether you're in a facility or outside a facility, are always concerned about privacy and confidentiality. Can you address that a bit?
Absolutely. The cornerstone of our program is confidentiality. Residents can come to us with any issue that they may have just to talk with us, and we cannot share that information or even work to address that issue without their permission. So sometimes we may talk with a resident multiple times about a concern that they have before they're even willing to let us address it. Every resident gets to choose what's shared about them.
And again, just to reiterate, whether it's a resident themselves, a resident's family member, or resident council, the services that you provide are at the request of the resident. Like, you just don't go in and take over.
Correct. We go in and talk with residents and inform them about our services, but ultimately we're not able to address anything without their permission. They can say that we're not ready to talk to you today, or they can say, please sit down and talk with me about my concerns. Same thing with a resident council. We're not able to work with a resident council without their permission. The resident council has to invite us to their meetings and want us there to help them address their issues.
You know, and very similar to Heather, you guys would still exist without volunteers, but in such a diminished capacity. They're so important. Can you talk about the importance of your volunteers?
Yes, our volunteers are, again, like Heather, the backbone of our program. We need volunteers to help us work with the residents in facilities. There's 1,400 long-term care facilities across the state. Staff alone cannot provide services to those residents. We truly need the volunteers to help with that, to help us with that and be able to provide those advocacy services.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, we've been fortunate, you and your team, us as a state office, you know, with the support of the governor's office and the legislature the last couple of years, has provided significant funding to help staff up, right, to pay for. But we're still a ways away from getting to be able to visit facilities on a more regular basis. Not all of them get those visits. So can you walk through a little bit, as Heather did, about if somebody is interested in really joining the HIICAP team, what their training looks like, how they would go about reaching out to you or one of your community partners to become a HIICAP volunteer?
Yes. So to become a volunteer, there's a couple of avenues for outreach. You can use our website, which does have a link to our form, to be able to fill out that form, and it will go directly to the area of the state that you would like to provide services in. We have 15 regional programs across the state that provide the coverage to the facilities, and they would then be outreaching to that person if they were interested. You can also reach out directly to the program in your region. Also, the volunteers have to go through 36 hours of training to become certified. So there is a lot of upfront training, but it provides a wealth of knowledge to be able to get started in those facilities and be able to provide that advocacy service. We also, like Heather's program, provide training throughout the year. There's always an opportunity for either an online training, and in your region that you're working in, they do in-person training as well. So there's always support to make sure that your skills are up to date and you're qualified to provide those services. And if you have questions on certain topics, we always are able to access other resources that can provide that training to you if you feel that you need more.
Yeah, thanks. And, you know, it's kind of two related questions, but I think one of the most significant changes that your leadership has brought is shadowing. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. And then, similar to what I asked Heather, is there a variety of different volunteer experiences an individual can have within the HIICAP program?
Yes. So when you sign up to become a volunteer and you show interest, there is a part of the certification training that's prior to the classroom, where you go into a facility with a seasoned ombudsman so that you can follow them and see what they're doing when they're in the facility. get that boots on the ground experience to see what it's like when you'd be in there on your own. So there's 4 hours of that prior to starting the classroom training. And then there's also, once the classroom training is completed, there's 6 hours of what's called post-mentoring, where you become the ombudsman with another seasoned ombudsman with you to make sure that you're understanding the role and you're able to address the situations that may come up, but you're acting in that role. So there is experience before you're sent out on your own.
Yeah, which I think is really important. So for those listening out there that, might have had somebody in a facility, you guys would be fantastic ombudsmen because you've already been in, you've already seen, you might know the facility and the staff already, but this certainly is open to anybody. We're going to take another quick break. We are having some slow tech issues today, so bear with us on that. But let's see if this works out in terms of our break number 2. Alex, hit it.
Life, you lend a helping hand. All your experience comes full circle as a volunteer ombudsman. Residents of assisted living and other facilities need people like you to help make a difference for them. Resolving problems, improving quality of life. Educate, empower, advocate. For more information, visit aging.ny.gov/ombudsman.
Excellent. Let's bring Heather back in, and we have Claudette, and we'll round this out with a little round robin Q&A. So now we've established kind of what your programs do, and they are critically vital, whether in the community on the Medicare side and HIICAP, or in a residential facility with the long-term care ombudsman program. Let's dive a little bit deeper into volunteerism, because that's really what this is all about. So both of you, whoever wants to go first is fine. We saw the recruitment video. Sometimes these types of programs and service can be difficult to recruit for. So talk a little bit about your recruitment efforts. What seems to work in your mind, and how can we get more individuals to really give of their time, have that purpose to really make a difference in somebody's life? I could call on you if you want, but you could just jump right in.
And I think Claudette is muted. I'll jump in. So recruitment, very important. And sometimes that happens, to be honest, right at a beneficiary counseling session. So sometimes our staff is counseling somebody who seems to be very knowledgeable, very savvy, and very interested in the program. We use that as an opportunity to say, would you be interested in becoming a volunteer? And we have had success with that. In addition, about a year ago, or maybe 9 months ago, we launched that volunteer web submission form. We've had great success with that. We've engaged many volunteers across the state, and they have been successful in their volunteer role at the local level. And then last but not least, I just want to mention a few of our area agencies on aging and our local HIICAP programs have worked with area colleges and engaged students in this, which is so important. And that has led to a very successful relationship, and they've been able to onboard quite a few volunteers through that avenue.
Yes. And for us, the best way for volunteer recruitment for us has really been word of mouth of our current volunteers. Most of our volunteers truly love their experience, and they're talking with their peers and they're talking with their friends. And we do gain interest from those individuals, as well as through community health fairs, just being out there and talking to people that may come to gather information. They hear about the program and they become interested, as well as, Greg, you had mentioned earlier, sometimes you're in a facility, you haven't had a loved one in the facility, and sometimes that just triggers them to say, you know what, I worked with that ombudsman to help resolve my concerns, and I truly want to be able to give back to my community and do that as well. So those are our 3 main ways of how we gather volunteers.
And Claudette, talk about your college partnership that you've established.
Yes, we're currently working with Hofstra University, providing a class to students to become certified ombudsman, and then they're able to continue that once they've completed the training throughout their next several years of school and gain a credit to continue being a volunteer. So we just started that this last semester, and we'll be having another class beginning in January of this year with Hofstra.
I think both of you guys, I applaud you for the connection with colleges. It also provides an additional opportunity, which is a main part of what our office does, combat ageism, intergenerational learning and work, that this older population isn't what people think or what we've all grown up to believe. So this is going to be, I don't like this question because it's going to be all over the map, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is, or is there a typical volunteer, or can we look across and say it really can be anybody?
I think it really can be anybody, but I would say primarily our volunteer corps are older and retired individuals who have felt that they want to give back to their community, as I mentioned, because there is a commitment. There's a 2 to 4 hour commitment each week. And there's also a commitment to those residents. They become reliant on seeing you and expecting to see you each week. So you're developing that relationship and that rapport with individuals. So there is a true commitment from those volunteers. But I will say that all of our volunteers, once they've started, and we have many that have been here 10 years or more, and the amount of support that they get from the residents look forward to them. They're very happy to see them. They know that they have someone that they can talk to resolve those issues. So a lot of times it's people that tend to be retired, but we are trying to jump into that younger generation too. So hopefully that will be a great advantage to us in the future.
I would say the same, for our program, really anybody can be a volunteer. We do have quite a few older adults that volunteer for our program, but through that relationship at the local level with area community colleges, universities, we are trying to tap more into the younger generation, targeting maybe those that are in the human service field, social work, pharmacy students. And we've had success with that. We want to continue to grow that because, again, we need volunteers. They are the backbone of our program, and we can make that volunteer opportunity fit their needs. So, I can see and I can hear my email dinging because as we're talking, I'm receiving volunteer web submission forms. So this is working.
That's great. We should do one for HIICAP as well. That's really great to hear in real time. I want to go back to a question I already asked you guys because I think this is really important. There's just not one role for either of your programs. There's a variety of different things that people can do, from things that may be a little bit more intense to things that are really supportive of the program. So can you just go through that one more time?
Yeah, for HIICAP, the primary role volunteers do is visiting facilities on a regular basis. But we also have volunteers who may have had experience in like IT, and they may come and do help with our data entry, which they could, be in the office, help the staff with entering all the data that's required. We also have some volunteers that will take over some office time and answer phones where they are certified. They're able to answer some basic questions and provide information and assistance, but also can gather that information to be passed on to the person that may be covering that facility. So that we also have some volunteers that go to our community events like health fairs and such to talk about the program. So there are several different ways to be a volunteer for HIICAP.
Yeah, and I would echo what Claudette shared for HIICAP. It's very similar with HIICAP. I mean, primarily folks who volunteer counsel, but again, not always, right? So it can be a group outreach event where they're conducting a Medicare 101 presentation at a local library. It can be admin support, just scheduling appointments for Medicare beneficiaries to meet with a counselor. It can also be assisting us with data entry. And I also want to say sometimes, we can use a volunteer to actually recruit other volunteers. So you're using a volunteer as a volunteer coordinator, and they can be the one that's out there and trying to work with area agencies in their area to recruit additional volunteers for the program.
Great. Now, I've heard from both of you from your perspective, and I'm going to appeal again because I want to hear more dings on Heather's machine, volunteers that are signing up in real time. But give a story or two. You can do one from each of your perspectives about a volunteer that has really excelled or distinguished themselves. I know that we recognize, at our annual Older New Yorkers Day, just the exceptional HIICAP and LIDCOP volunteers, but they represent the masses, and we never want to, necessarily say that one person is better than the other. They're all really important, but somebody that's really excelled or distinguished themselves for their volunteer role.
I'll kick things off. So I do have a volunteer in the New York City area that has 25 years with the program. I don't want to single out just one person. So I'll also say that I have volunteers with over 20 years experience that excel at assisting with Medicare appeals. And that's a very complex area. And another volunteer who excels at the Medicare Plan Finder tool, which is on Medicare.gov site. And we use that to help, weigh options for people when it comes to their Medicare health plan choices. So again, these volunteers are dedicated to the program, but for the one New York City volunteer, 25 years with the program, I mean, that's a lot, and that way to go.
Yes. Wow. Yes, we have volunteers that have over 20 years with the program as well, which is amazing. And some of them have picked up extra facilities. They want to do this so much that they've chosen to cover 2 or 3 facilities. And some of our volunteers have truly made systemic change in the facilities that they're working at. And I think that that's where the volunteers have that ability for that feel-good experience. We had a volunteer work with a facility to change some of the activities and involve more like gardening services and help the facility be able to access resources to do that. We've had volunteers work with resident councils and the facility to get a home cooked meal into their facility, having them use those residents' recipes. So the volunteers are making systemic change in those facilities and truly feeling good about their experience.
And I'm going to point out the obvious. When you've got a volunteer that's been there for 10, 15, 20 years, I think that really shows how meaningful that experience is and how valuable, again, the work is, because the volunteer, it's work, but it's important work. And I know that there's people out there that are watching this now or will be watching in the coming weeks. I know you have time on your hands. I know you want to do something that makes a difference in somebody's lives. And these 2 programs could absolutely benefit from your time, your experience, and your passion. I think we're all concerned about, the potential future and what that means for our budgets, for our not-for-profits that we work with, for our county governments, in terms of potentially shrinking and the need for actually to get more volunteers. So this is really timely. I'm going to put you on the spot because that's just kind of how I roll. Is there anything that I didn't ask you guys that you would like to say about your program, or to reiterate something that you think is important that you've already said?
I'll jump in, and I just want to say that, we do rely on our volunteers. I don't want anybody to feel intimidated by anything that was discussed today. At the end of the day, a volunteer and a HIICAP counselor is somebody that's listening to somebody on the other end of the phone and really reassuring them and trying to help them navigate, but also again, be that listening ear, because Medicare beneficiaries are overwhelmed. It can be very, some of them are anxious about the changes to their plan for the upcoming year. So a volunteer in our program is there to be a listening ear and to help guide them. You don't need to know all the answers, but where to find them. And that's part of our training. And we go over all that in onboarding.
Yes. And similar to Heather, a volunteer for our program is sometimes a voice for residents who have literally no one. They may have no family. They may have no friends locally any longer. The volunteers go in there and talk with those residents and can advocate on their behalf. And sometimes those residents who are unable to speak for themselves, our volunteers observe things and are able to talk with staff to improve the care for those residents as well. You just really need to be compassionate and have empathy and just a need and want and desire to help others. We'll provide the training, we'll help you improve the skills that you may need, but just having the ability to be a listening ear for those residents and facilities is 90% of the battle.
Yeah, and the support that a volunteer is going to get from both of your teams, the training, like I said, you're not going to be hung out to dry. If any of this intrigues you, there are still so many compassionate people out there that care. We know that. The news doesn't always show it, but we know that to be true. You can always try it. See if it's a good fit for you. There's a variety of different opportunities within each program. It's not a one size fits all, but we could really use you. It provides great purpose because the two sets of work that both of your programs do are so critically important to the older adults that live and reside and work in the state of New York. So I can't thank you guys enough. If anybody is interested in becoming a HIICAP volunteer, there's a form on the website. Sounds like we got some interest today. Same with the long-term care ombudsman program. There's training, there's support, provides purpose, but really makes a difference in people's lives. I can't wait for you guys to join us on our next show. We launched a partnership with Get Set Up a couple of years ago. Have hundreds of thousands of users learning how to use their digital technology, having access to over 5,000 classes and courses, improving overall health and wellness. But there's a lot of new updates, and we're really excited to have them back on the show to talk about what's new, what they can offer, and none of it is a cost to you. So as always, I can't thank you enough for being with us today. I want to thank our communications team, Alex, Darren, and Roger, for always making the production great. Apologize for a couple of the tech glitches. That is a rare thing, but it can happen. So we're going to see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Live with Greg is a production of the New York State Office for the Aging Communications Bureau. Please join us next time.